Hello. Good luck, coach. Hello, Pedro. Right, so we are back, and welcome to everyone to the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. I'm Sarah Hawkins, also known as Sarah Hawkey, and I'll be your host this evening and one of your co-commentators for this Gran Turismo 7 base championship. Entering the second half of the season now in tonight's race, and again, I'm joined by motorsport enthusiast, racer, and co-commentator Kirk.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks for the introduction. As always, I'm certain we'll see another exciting round of racing, and I'm certainly looking forward to all the thrills and spills that the Glen will provide us tonight.
I'm sure it will. So, if there's anybody new to the championship, here is a series rundown. We are back better than ever for season 2 of the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. We have an 8-event championship spanning over 16 race sessions and 8 weeks. Lots of different car manufacturers on the grid and potentially over 27 drivers with some great tracks on the calendar. We have 3 official time sessions with a reverse grid sprint race up first, followed by qualifying, and then tonight will be treated to a 34-lap feature race around Watkins Glen. Okay, Kirk, could you give us an overview of the event session format and point scale, please?
Absolutely, Sarah. So starting tonight at about 8:30 British Standard Time, we'll have our 15-minute reverse championship order rolling start sprint race. This is a open tyre choice the sprint race. Although from the little bit of driving I've done and from the layout of the track, this will be a very high degradation circuit. So it'll be interesting to see which will be the fastest tyre in the sprint race, rather it be from the soft tyre, where you get a fast launch, or the medium tyre, which will probably see you last the whole race. After the sprint race, starting at about 10 to 9, we'll have our 10-minute qualifying session, um, which um, which will decide our order for our feature race. It's important to know that the tyre you qualify on, or set your fastest lap on, is the tyre you have to start the feature race on. So you may choose to set a faster qualifying lap time on the soft tyre. Well, that will really limit your strategy choices going into the race. Or you could go a little bit slower on the medium tyre, like we saw last week with Louis. Louis last week was our fastest medium qualifier in qualifying P6, and it opened the better strategy choice because he started on the mediums allowed him to end up finishing P3 in the feature race. So I'm not saying it could make or break your race, but it certainly spices stuff up. After qualifying, we'll be going straight into our 34-lap feature race, which will be grid order. So, especially around a track like Watkins Glen, where it's very high speed first sector, it'll be interesting to see if everybody can sort themselves out before we reach the chicane. There is a mandatory 2 tyre rule, so you'll have to use 2 different sets of tyre, or 2 different compounds of tyre, whether it will be soft medium, medium hard, or soft hard. As long as you use 2 different tyre compounds, you're perfectly fine from there. Obviously, we're not going to see any rain today, as unfortunately Watkins Glen does not have rain on GT7. But if we did have rain, once the moisture bar goes over a third full, it will then be declared a wet race, and it will be the open tyre choice for the rest of the race. Therefore, if you did start in the softs, you could then go inters and then softs again till the end of the race. And then if we go to our point system, no matter what, we'll see points up for grabs for every single session today. Whether it be in the sprint race, where you can earn between 20 and 2 points with an extra point for the fastest lap. Then our top 3 qualifiers also get bonus points, ranging from 3 for pole, 2 for second place, and 1 for third place. And then our main event of the evening, where the majority of the points can be won at the feature race. The feature race is the race you probably want to do the best in, although there is points up for grabs in every event, as I said, and that is 40 for first, going down to 4th for 14th, with an extra 2 bonus points for fastest lap, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Kirk, for running us through that. Always appreciated. So I believe everyone's just joining the lobby and getting ready to race. But in the meantime, we will just recap on last week's sprint race before we get into this week's sprint race. So in P1 last week, we had Katie the Kai coming home in first after what's been a difficult first half of the season. To get that win, both me and Kirk were very happy. In P2, running out of fuel just across the line was Handy Point. And then in P3, a newcomer to the championship and filling in for Yvonne, we then had Sophie in P3, which was a surprising P3, but we were so proud of Sophie on her first ever Nighthawk race to get a podium. And just a quick look, a quick teaser at the feature race podium from last week. We'll go into this in more detail before the feature race, but we then had Callum, who's obviously that we're a McLaren down tonight, but Callum in one of the McLarens getting home in P1. Callum, in the first half of the season has done remarkably well, always fighting for those wins. In P2, we then had Katie the Kai again. So Katie the Kai having a brilliant round last week. And then in P3, we had Louis, aka Dark Lord, who never believes he's fast, but we all know he's very fast. So I'm sure he'll be on the podium again tonight. But I think, we're just getting ready for everyone. So we've got a Pedro hot lap today, which should, if anybody wants to see it, is at the end of his tutorial video. So enjoy, and then hopefully at the end we will be treated to a 15-minute sprint race. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed Pedro's hot lap, and me and Kirk were just saying that was a pretty good time set by Pedro there, and thank you as always, Pedro, for doing the tutorial videos and the hot lap this week. But Kirk, what are your thoughts about tonight? Obviously 15 minutes around Watkins Glen, the sprint race. Obviously this might be the first time that the drivers have driven around this track in a while, so what do you think we can expect?
I'm certainly expecting to see a lot of overtakes, especially from the faster drivers towards the back of the field. Obviously, with the people like Callum, Swizzy, and Mac all starting at the back of the sprint race as it's reverse championship order. I'm expecting to see lots of overtakes. Hopefully you're going to see another master drive as we saw from Swizzy last season, where he can absolutely cut through the midfield pack. However, I think we could also see the likes of Coach, our Pedros, our Koulioses, and a Midnight. Possibly one of those four drivers could possibly scrape onto the podium tonight. Obviously, Watkins Glen, quite a tight, twisty track, especially towards the second half of the lap. So they can pull off a good defensive drive. They can certainly do quite well around here, Sarah.
Yes, couldn't agree more. And as we say that, everyone's just lining up on the grid now for the 15-minute sprint race. So, Kirk, if you want to kind of head us out when Koulios goes over the start line for me.
Absolutely. So leading us tonight, starting on the racing medium tyre, we have dreaded my or Koulios, as he's better known, leading us off, followed by Louis, Midnight ISO P3, Hartman P4, who I'm certainly expecting to be able to challenge towards the podium tonight in this sprint race. With Coach in P5, Pedro in 6th. Possibly get a little bit of contact there between Pedro and Swizzy, or Pedro and McManley there in turn 1, as that allows Swizzy to get past both Pedro and Mac. Mac, who is now really struggling, dropped down quite a few positions, now into P9 behind the Dark Lord / Louis. Back at the front, we have Koulios leading us from Louis, or Lewis, should I say, LB Lewis, then Midnight in P3. LB Lewis taking a bit of an unorthodox line through the chicane there, taking a lot of grass and picking up a second penalty because of it, Sarah.
Ooh,
That
that's
is
not
probably
what you
not what
want.
he wants on the first lap of this race.
We're on the same wavelength there. Yeah, not what Lewis wanted to start. A 15-minute race. Obviously, a 1 second is quite a big chunk of time taken out. But I saw the grass flying, so cutting some grass, but unfortunately, like you say, picking up that 1 second penalty. But everyone else seems to have gotten away quite nicely, quite clean. And we've got Coach up into P3.
Yeah, absolutely. He made a move up the inside of Hartman a few corners ago, and obviously thanks to LB Lewis's penalty, promotes him up onto the podium. And see, Koulios has now got a half-second penalty, Sarah, our leader so far after the first lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, picking up a half-second penalty, potentially. The track limits around here, they're unforgiving, like any other track. Obviously, if you take the car too far wide or go outside those white lines, Watkins Glen will definitely give you a track limits penalty for that. And unfortunately, Koulios picking up one. This may promote. Was that a move I saw in the background between Coach and Midnight? That caught my attention.
It's quite a robust move from Coach on Midnight ISO. That move costing both Midnight and ISO and Coach a position to Hartman. While they're trying to go 3 wide at the back there, Swizzy, LB Lewis, and Midnight ISO. With Midnight now being able to hold P4 again, as they all go in 2 by 2 into the chicane, where we see Coach pull off an audacious move up the inside of Hartman, as well as LB Lewis being able to overtake Midnight ISO. Midnight now also being put under pressure from Swizzy. Is Swizzy going to look to the inside? He doesn't. Midnight maybe he saw the move possibly coming from the Lexus driver and broke later into that corner, and using the camber to help carry momentum round. Towards the battle for P7, we see Mac Manley going up the inside of Pedro, securing that position. But can Pedro hit a nice cutback on him? Not quite, Sarah.
No, but he's definitely got that nose of the Porsche right behind that Mercedes, and I'm sure he'll be eyeing up a move. As we see LB Lewis going for a move on Midnight, but also picking up a half-a-second penalty. Ouch. Obviously, we know in the sprint race that this is kind of a lot of people's first run around the track. That was very close.
Yeah, almost. LB Lewis almost going round, thanks to a little bit of handy assistance from Mac. And then going wide at the penultimate corner. Possibly a little bit of help from Pedro there, and picking up another penalty.
Ooh.
This is not LB Lewis's race so far, is it, Sarah?
No, unfortunately, picking up quite a few penalties. But like I said a minute ago, a lot of people use the sprint race as kind of their first experience or kind of their first practice around the track that we're racing. So, yeah, potentially, hasn't raced this track in a while, feeling a little bit kind of out of practice. But I'm sure by the end of the sprint race, all the drivers will be be ready for the qualifying, setting some good laps and ready for the feature race. Oh, as we see Midnight and Hartman going side by side into the chicane there, which never really ends up going well. Obviously, it's tight even to get one car through there. So to get 2 or 3 cars around there side by side, it's a tough ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Possibly Midnight there, expecting Hartman to back out of the move, which he didn't quite do. See Koulios getting on the grass in front of us, allowing Midnight through up into the right-hander. Again, it looks like we're seeing quite a few simple mistakes that are costing people quite a few positions, Sarah.
Yeah, well, it's very unforgiving, this track, with the grass obviously either side. As soon as you hit the tiniest bit of grass, the car will, become unpredictable and want to kind of swing you to one side. And I think that's what a couple of drivers are struggling with at the moment, as to, how the car deals around or, drives around this track. Some obviously better than others. And Midnight, hanging on in there, trying to kind of capitalise on the other driver's mistakes, and so far he's doing that in P2.
Absolutely. And also another driver who's doing very well at the moment is our race leader coach. Now, after not having the greatest of rounds last week out at Deep Forest, that one stop not really working out for him, he's certainly making amends this week, currently leading our sprint race, Sarah.
Yeah, and I've got to say I love Coach, in the lead. He's, like Kirk just said, he's had a, quite consistent but quiet races so far in the first half of the season. So potentially, he'll be back up on the podium, and if he's got this pace in the feature race, then lo and behold, we will probably see him, fighting for a win, if not a podium, which is nice to see.
I'm not sure if you can get a rewind on that move from McManley on Koulios. It seemed a bit hairy there for a second there.
I can try to. I might have just missed it. Oh, side by side into the chicane. Oh, I mean, both drivers going a bit wide on the chicane. Koulios on the entry of the chicane and Mac on the exit. So both drivers kind of getting to the same place at the same time.
Yeah, but a very brave move there from McManley on the inside into the chicane. A very impressive move that promotes him up to 4th place. As you see, Swizzy is now running on the podium behind Midnight ISO. Certainly a very impressive race so far for Swizzy, obviously starting towards the back of the pack. Obviously up to P3 now after the first 4 laps, and on to lap 5. Is Midnight going to be under pressure now coming up into the chicane, Sarah?
I mean, it's Swizzy. he's probably going to be under some sort of pressure by Swizzy. Obviously, Midnight and Swizzy, they regularly kind of race each other. And, there's a lot of respect between the two. But I think Midnight will be looking behind him, seeing, Swizzy right behind him. And we'll probably see Midnight trying to defend. But we all know how fast Swizzy is. Although in a different car this season. And we haven't been able to see him race just as much. But that doesn't stop our Swizzy, and looks like he's getting the slipstream off Midnight, going to that outside line into the chicane. Does he get the move done? Side by side. Still side by side.
Look at that. It's allowed Coach to extend the gap by almost a full second, Sarah. The gap was about 3.8 seconds. Well, so just over 3.5 seconds as they entered the chicane, and now by the time Swizzy gets the move done, four corners later, the gap is now just about 4.4 seconds.
Yeah, and it opened up the door very nicely for McManley. McManley getting a lot of stripsteam there and kind of wading into the fight between Swizzy and Midnight, gets a position out of it. Quite cleverly, Midnight left that door just that little bit open, and McManley capitalised on that.
It was quite a nice move going around the outside the corner before the back straight, just allowing Mac to get a better run out of the corner, and in the end, not really much Midnight could do to defend there. So now Coach has got a hold off both the charging Swizzy and Mac in this final 6 minutes of this race to be able to hold that win tonight, Sarah. You think he can do it?
Oh, I mean, I don't see why not, but it depends. If Swizzy's putting, foot to the floor, he might catch him towards the end, but I think Coach has just got to remain calm, cool, and I'm sure he'll be in a good shot of winning this. If not, a podium, which I'm sure Coach will be very happy about.
Absolutely. Interesting to note as well, Coach's front tyres are just about similarly worn compared to Swizzy's medium tyres. Obviously, with Coach being on the softs and Swizzy on the mediums, that's quite surprising to see. It's not something you see all that often, is it?
No, obviously, usually we kind of see the different cars obviously have their own kind of characteristics, but like you say, we usually see the softs burn through really quickly, so for them to kind of hold their own around here and compare them to Swizzy's mediums, it's quite surprising. But it must mean, Coach is he's the tyre whisperer. He's trying to get them all the way 4 more minutes, and I'm sure he'll be able to do that, and he'll be looking after them as much as he can, although Swizzy, I think, will be kind of using all the rubber that he can get trying to catch Coach here.
Absolutely, trying to take full advantage of that clear air. See, Mac, even now with Swizzy in clean air, Mac, he isn't really dropping Mac Manley that much, is he really, Sarah?
No.
So about half a second.
Yeah, Midnight and... Well, yeah, McManley and Midnight's not too far behind this group as well. But yeah, McManley's making full use of Swizzy's slipstream. And obviously we know Swizzy's picked a new car. He hasn't raced as much, so it's quite a challenge for Swizzy, to adapt to a new car with not as much practice behind. So, he's doing really well so far. But McManley, obviously, we know we always see McManley in the Mercedes, so he might be that little bit more confident than Swizzy tonight.
Absolutely. As we see him going up the inside into the chicane, not quite being able to make it work to come on Swizzy. Swizzy holding that second place for now. But you can only think it's a matter of time, because McManley doesn't seem to be really allowing Swizzy much time to rest. That gap to Coach in front is really sort of stabilised at about 3.5 between 3.5 and 4 seconds. The Coach's race to win. Possibly Swizzy losing all probability of finishing on the podium as well, as Midnight is now closing that gap. The much better tyre wear of that McLaren is allowing him to close up to both the likes of Swizzy and McManley. And Swizzy goes wide, which allows Mac up the inside and into the second to last corner. Can Swizzy hold it round the outside? No, he can't. He backs off, allows McManley to take the apex of the corner. Heading, looks like we should have just about 2 laps left. Can Swizzy, who's really struggling on that front left tyre, can he hold it off the likes of Midnight to even finish on the podium, Sarah?
Oh, considering how close Midnight is, it's a possibility that we may see Midnight pass Swizzy. Obviously, like you just alluded to, the McLaren much better on tyre wear compared to that Lexus, which is again another kind of challenge to overcome for Swizzy. So I think Swizzy will be using this sprint race as more kind of a data gathering session, seeing what tyres the Lexus does well. As Midnight goes onto the outside through the chicane, goes a little bit wide. Oh, he was very lucky not to lose that there, Midnight. We usually pan to him when he's spinning, but not this time, but it was close. But he'll be eyeing up a move on Swizzy again shortly, I believe. I was just having a look down the grid. We have Malcolm in the pits in P10. Potentially not the kind of the best start to his sprint race. I know, I believe he hasn't driven this track much, and so yeah, like I say, probably again using this kind of session as more of a data gathering session in order to come back full speed ahead for the feature race and qualifying.
Absolutely. As you said before, so this track is certainly a very difficult, especially with that technical final sector where getting a power a little bit too early and you could see yourself spearing off into a wall or touch a little bit of grass and then lose the rear. And it's really difficult to recover from that. Heading on to what should be our final lap, Coach currently leads by about just under 3 seconds to Mac Manny. Both of their tyres looking very, very worn, fully in the red. Then we P3 Swizzy with Midnight behind pressure him. Again, Swizzy's front left is absolutely running on the rim. Hopefully, Midnight can take full advantage of this to be able to finish a bit higher up right now. As we see that gap is closing, that McLaren's stuck or sat right behind that Lexus. Not quite close enough to make a move into the chicane right now, just sat behind. Surely Midnight must be able to make the move here because Swizzy's tyres will be absolutely screaming. Is it Midnight? Oh, Midnight is so close. Is almost pushing that Lexus around those corners. This is right-handers. Swizzy's right-hand tyres are looking better, so maybe he's not struggling as much in the right-handers, but the left-handers, should I say? But the right-hand corners, he is really struggling with that Lexus. Do you think Luke can overtake? Because realistically, he's only got one more chance coming up, Sarah.
Oh, it's going to be a tough ask. Swizzy's kind of probably full-on defender mode at the moment. Closing those doors, making sure Midnight doesn't get anywhere near him. But could we see him going onto the outside for the switchback? I'm not sure if he's going to get it. No, I think this is the order we're going to see, unless Midnight can get a lot of speed out of that final sector. But as we join, Coach, just about to cross the line on. The tyres have seen better days, but what a win from Coach.
We're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a very close finish between Swizzy and Luke, but just not quite enough in the end. Swizzy secures P3. As you were saying, Sarah, a very good drive from Coach. I'm sure he'll be thoroughly impressed with that drive. I know I'm thoroughly impressed with him. A very good victory from him today. Also, interesting to see Pedro managed to finish up in P5. Another good drive from him. Dark Claude, Louis in P6. LB, Lewis in P7. Koulios in P8. Hartman finishing P9 in the end, which can only really be summed up by quite a scruffy session from him. And then rounding that back of the pack, we have Callum. Obviously, not a very good sprint race from Callum, was it there, Sarah?
No, I think he was struggling a little bit. We've obviously not known the track too well. I think he was kind of struggling to get to grips with, the technical sections, especially in that McLaren. Obviously, we know that it's quite fast, so you take a corner just that inch wrong, and there's barriers, there's grass that can kind of catch you. So I believe, Callum's probably, he knows that he'll still get points. Every position gets points, but he'll be using this first kind of 15 minutes as a right. I've got to use this time to get to know the track, to see kind of what lines are better for the McLaren, who he's fighting, what positions he can go. So I'm sure in the qualifying and the feature race we'll see him climb a few more positions. But yeah, it's unusual, obviously, to see Callum that far down. Obviously, we know that he's a frequent winner, if not podium driver. So can he do the same in the feature race? But I've got to say, what a win for Coach. I know Coach has been practicing a lot, and I know that Supra is a car that he loves. So to see him get a win, we love it. So congratulations, Coach, and I'm sure you'll be very, very happy indeed. But as the drivers go to qualifying, should we talk about the drivers themselves, Kirk?
Absolutely, Sarah. So I know we've got a lot of good fast drives here tonight, Sarah. So if you want to kick it off.
I can do indeed. So, starting off, we have Koulios, and Koulios is back in the driver's seat tonight after missing out last week due to not feeling so well. But it's good to see him back, and a few races ago, he came home in first in the sprint race around high-speed ring reverse. I'm sure that Koulios will be aiming to have another good performance here tonight. After round 4, Koulios is in 16th place with 79 points. Next up, we have LB Racing, also known as Lewis, one of our drivers of the day for Lobby 2 last week. Lewis is back in Lobby 1 and ready to fight amongst the drivers. Lewis has had some brilliant races in that BMW M6, and again, I'm sure he'll be aiming to have just as good a performance here tonight around Watkins Glen. LB Racing is in 12th place with 106 points. And the main man himself, Coach is driving brilliantly in that Supra, which I know he loves. He has had some amazing races so far, and I think obviously this one tonight, the sprint race win, will going to be at the top of his list. But can he knock on the door of a Lobby 1 podium? This is obviously, I wrote this before seeing the sprint race, and he definitely did knock on the door, and he barged that door down. But Coach is on 129 points in 7th place overall. Next up, we have McManley. McManley has recently been appointed as a member of the Nighthawk admin crew, and I wonder if he can get another podium again after narrowly missing out last week. And he did, again, I wrote this before watching the sprint race, and he definitely did get a podium in that 2nd place, which I'm sure has boosted his confidence quite a bit. But Mac is currently in 4th place with 153 points. And the last driver for me is Pedro. Pedro is in the white Rexy again, and also a member of the Nighthawk admin team. He's consistently picked up points, which all helps in the championship. I know that Pedro's aiming for a top 5 finish overall, but Pedro has provided a tutorial video yet again, which is available on the Nighthawk Racing YouTube and has been very helpful and definitely worth a watch. Pedro is in 6th place currently with 133 points. And now handing over to Kirk, could you go through the rest of the drivers for me?
Absolutely, Sarah. It will be my pleasure. Starting off with one of the co-founders of the league that is racing tonight. We have a Midnight. Although he didn't have the greatest rounds last week for Luke, following an incident in the sprint race, which saw a Hartman tag him round, and he just parked it in the pits to finish last of our runners. Though he bounced back quite well in the feature race, overcoming all adversaries, which saw him have a wheel disconnect during the middle part of the race, which he says cost him roughly about 10 seconds or so. But no matter, still finishing a very impressive P6 just behind Pedro. Midnight is currently P10 in our championship on 83 points. Only 6 behind Kai and 9 away from Bertie. So possibilities for him to move up in the standings tonight. After that, we have the Dark Claude or Louis. Similarly to Midnight, it was a tale of 2 races for him, which saw him finish P10 in the sprint race. But once again, he showed us what it means to be fast, finishing on the podium to only behind Callum and Kai. I'm sure he'll certainly be trying to mix it up with the top 2 tonight, but it'd be interesting to see how it shakes out, especially with the likes of Swizzy and Callum racing tonight. And speaking of the devil, Callum struggled within the sprint race, only finishing P7. So yeah, the feature race saw a change of fortune for him, as although he ended up winning the sprint race, he was kept honest throughout the entire event, as Kai never let him pull out too much of a gap. But in the end, he kept it clean. He never crumbled under the pressure that Kai was mounting, and drove a superb race and winning it overall. Callum is currently leading our standings thanks to an Evo's server problems. He currently leads the way in the standings. After that, we have Hartman. Hartman's impressive form wavered slightly last week as contact with Midnight early on in the sprint race saw him fall to the back of the pack, or the pack that was battling for P6 in that race. He ended up finishing P9 overall. That battle for P6 separated in the end by about 2.5 to 3 seconds. So really, anyone could have been at the front of that pack. Unfortunately, it wasn't Hartman. Then I left off to this feature race. He was driving a very good race early on, in such as high places as P4 and P3. After pitting and going on to the medium tyre, he ended up picking damage up early on, which really cost him. His pace definitely got a lot worse due to the damage, which saw him, after pitting for his final stop, it saw him drop behind the likes of both Midnight and Pedro, and only finishing at P7 during the race. After that, we have the return of Season 1 champion Swizzy. I'll be looking forward to seeing him race tonight. Obviously, we saw him pick up a P3 in the sprint race. It'll be interesting to see where he can qualify and finish in the feature race. Will he be able to challenge the likes of our Callum tonight for that? What I assume will be the victory of the race. And finally, after that, someone who possibly could be joining us tonight, KD the Kai, as I see confirmation that he will be racing he is qualifying and will be taking part in the feature race tonight. KD the Kai finally returned to winning as he won our sprint race last week and finished second in the feature race. I'm sure he'll absolutely be looking to try and get on the top step of the feature race tonight. And I'm sure he'll try and continue the good form now that the good luck is finally going his way, Sarah.
I'm sure he will be, and yeah, like you say, unfortunately, couldn't do the sprint race, so I'm sure it'll be all guns a blazing for the feature race and the qualifying, and hopefully the good luck from last week has continued into this week for KD the Kai. And before we get onto the track facts, just let's have a quick reminder. Obviously, we've got Swizzy, we've got Kai, we've got Mac, so we've got to show the Season 1 stats. So if this picture doesn't show you anything, it shows you how fast Swizzy actually is and kind of how many accolades he got in Season 1 for pole positions, fastest laps, sprint race victories or podiums, feature race, and he was the only driver to get a Grand Slam, which was a pole position, a fastest lap, sprint race victory, and a feature race victory all in one night. So, yeah, if that doesn't kind of show you how fast Swizzy is, I'm not sure what will. And then, obviously, Season 1 runner-up was KD the Kai, and again, picking up kind of a lot of podium drives in Season 1. Unfortunately, we know that he's had quite a difficult Season 2 start, but, potentially in Season 3 we could see him, back up fighting for those feature race, sprint race victories, if not kind of getting a Grand Slam. And we'll go back to Mac as well. Obviously, Mac picking up quite a few sprint race and feature race podium, as well as a sprint race win in Season 1. But, all three of those drivers, in Season 2 have been doing remarkably well. Obviously, we haven't seen Swizzy racing as much, but it's always good to see him. And hopefully for Season 3, he's a little bit more on track. Apart from that, we will head back to see the drivers qualifying while we have a look at some track facts for Watkins Glen. So, as you may already see, we are racing around Watkins Glen tonight. The track itself is 5.5 kilometres or 3.4 miles long, and Watkins Glen International is a real-world racetrack located in New York State, USA, if nobody knew. Watkins Glen International is the spiritual home of road racing in the USA, with crowds flocking to see top-level racing since the 1940s. All major road racing classes in North America have competed here at one stage or another. For example, Formula 1 through to Can-Am and the NASCAR Cup Series. Known colloquially as the Glen, the facility is now owned by NASCAR and has been the host of the Cup Series race every year since 1986. It was long known around the world as the home of Formula 1 United States Grand Prix, which it was hosted for 20 consecutive years from 1961 to 1968. So, Kirk, what do you think of Watkins Glen?
The Glen is a legendary circuit, obviously well known throughout America and the rest of the world. An interesting fact about it from me anyway, interesting fact that I thought about the track. For the longest time, for whatever reason, I thought that Watkins Glen was in Australia. Just a funny fact to say about me. Obviously, I know that it's in America now. And there's a lot of key features to the lap that can make or break a lap. Obviously, turn one, if you don't accurately get for turn one, you can ruin your lap before it really gets underway. As if you go a little bit wide or run too wide on the exit of turn one, it can not only ruin your run up the hill, you could possibly pick up a half-second penalty. After turn one, after the run up the hill, you got the chicanes. The chicanes really have to be taken with you have to take the chicane quite aggressively, using quite a lot of curb. And then you get towards the more technical part of the lap. The part of laps where you really have to use the camber of the circuit to carry that momentum round, and the traction zones where you cannot really push the traction zones too much, as if you push them due to the undulation in the circuit, you can easily see yourself going round. And that leads us into the final sector. The final sector is the sector that is probably the most technical on the circuit. A sector that I find extremely frustrated as compared to the rest of the lap. It is technical, heavily dependent on your front tyres, and you've got to control that throttle, as it's really easy to just be a little bit too aggressive and possibly loop the car and lose a lot of time. I think no matter my hundreds of laps around here, Sarah, I don't think I ever really nailed the final sector once. But other than that, at the end of the lap, you got the pit lane. I'm sure we're going to see one or two drivers possibly pick up pit lane penalties during the race, as it is a very tight pit lane and it starts from before the final corner. Therefore, you cannot really attack it too much. As if you do go over that yellow line, you will be given a 3-second time penalty, which will really cost you in your out lap, Sarah.
It definitely will, and I think drivers will be trying their best to avoid that 3-second penalty if they can. Obviously, we know how difficult it is. Me and Kirk had our fair share of laps around Watkins Glen, and our fair share of battles, shall I say. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. But yeah, me and Kirk, we've raced around Watkins Glen. We know how difficult it can be. So we're excited, but we also know that the drivers will be. This will probably be one of the most difficult tracks, with a lot of technical sections and a lot of sections they've got to get right, because if not, the game will give them a penalty, or there's dangerous kind of grass or walls that can collect them and picking up damage, which all drivers do not want. But before we have a look at the qualifying order, we'll just have a quick little look at the championship standings as they are after round 4. As Kirk just said, we have Callum in the number 1 spot with 199 points. And as you can see, we then have the Dark Lord, who is always picking up a podium or two. So picking up a lot of points, has helped to get that 2nd place. Unfortunately, Evo has dropped a few places because of obviously not being able to race the last couple of weeks. But I'm sure when Evo's back, he'll be fighting for those wins. And he'll be fighting, Dark Lord and Callum for that top spot. Next, we have McManley. McManley has consistently held that 4th place. We could potentially see that change going into tonight. Obviously, Evo not being able to race, McManley might be on the the top 3. But then we have KD the Kai, Pedro, Coach, Hartman, Midnight, Big Crazy Bertie, who is obviously our Lobby 2 host. We then have Handy Pint, who isn't racing tonight, LB Racing, who has been promoted to Lobby 1. We Sophia, Swizzy. I think Swizzy after tonight will be jumping up quite a few positions. We then have Haslett, Koulios, Yvonne, Ripon Deterran. And then going into the second page, we have Sharon, Simon, Piper, Deadline, Ziggy, Sophie, and Nick. Obviously, we'll be watching and commentating on Lobby 2 afterwards, and that will be posted to the Nighthawk Racing YouTube channel. So if you want to watch, both lobbies, I highly recommend subscribing to the Nighthawk Racing YouTube, as you'll see that content over there, hopefully, towards the weekend. But we'll get back to the qualifying, and we'll see who looks like they're going to be on pole for the 5th race of the season.
If I could just butt in for a second. So both of our top 2 drivers will not be improving on this lap. So that really hands it over to the likes of Callum and Swizzy to see if they can challenge the top 2 tonight. I'm interested to say Midnight. Oh, as you see, Callum hit the wall at the final corner. That's really going to cost him this lap, and he is not going to improve. It hands over to Swizzy. Can Swizzy challenge the top 3? And he cannot. So there is our top 3 confirmed. We have Mac now for P5 coming around the final corner. Can he improve any higher or challenge the top runners? No, he cannot. It seems like nobody is improving on this track right now, Sarah. We've got 2 last runners to set a lap time. As coming around the penultimate corner, we have Koulios. Koulios really got to attack that final corner. Looked like he might have got a little bit out of shape heading into the final corner. As he runs the line, is he going to improve any time? And he does not. That really leaves our last chance to Louis. Can Louis improve his position from last position? No, he cannot, Sarah. Possibly a very disappointing qualifying there from Louis. Finishing P11 overall, Sarah. Obviously, he just cannot get it hooked up. He did not get it all hooked up in this qualifying session, did he, Sarah?
No, unfortunately not, and neither did Pedro, obviously not being able to improve on that P6 finish. So a very difficult qualifying session, it looks like, for quite a few drivers. We did miss quite a bit of qualifying, but Kurt, could you run us down the feature race grid of tonight?
Absolutely. So we have Katie Kai on pole, getting them bonus 3 points. That's going to help him in the standings. Then we have Midnight, who interestingly qualified on the soft tyre, so he will have the advantage at the start of the race. It'll be interesting to see if he can challenge Katie Kai heading into the first lap or 2. P3, we have Callum. Then about 2 tenths back, we have Swizzy in P4. We have Mac Manley in P5 in a bit of a no man's land. Not really that close to Swizzy, and only clear of Pedro in P6. We have LB Lewis in P7. I'm sure he'd be very happy with that qualifying position. And Hartman in P8, Koulios in P9, Coach, the winner of the sprint race, in P10, and then Louis rounding out the back of the pack in P11, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kirk, for running us through the grid. And a few people that looked like they struggled in that qualifying session, but one person that didn't look like they struggled was Midnight. What a time set by him. Obviously, on the soft set of tyres, he'll be blisteringly fast off the start of the grid, but we don't normally see Midnight qualifying up that high, so I'm sure Midnight will be beaming ear to ear with that qualifying time.
Yeah, he'll be very happy to be up in between the soft runners, or the medium runners at the front there. I remember practicing with him, and after he saw Swizzy set a 44.44, he was like, there's no way I can match that. And here he is qualifying in a 44.3. A very good lap and a very impressive showing there from Midnight. The kayak qualifying him by about 2.5 tenths. So it'd be interesting to see if Midnight can really challenge Hayden Kai in that first lap. or whether we could see Kai running off into distance while Midnight holds up the medium runners behind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how kind of defensive Midnight takes it off of the start, and how quickly Kai gets away. But obviously Callum looking like he had a better qualifying than sprint race. P3. He seems to have kind of hooked it up nicely, and I'm sure, like I said, he'll be using the sprint race as the practice, and the feature race he'll make it stick.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting as we said before. The pit lane entry is very difficult, so it's very easy to be able to pick up a 3-second pit lane infringement penalty. As well as around the rest of the track, we saw quite a few drivers picking up penalties during the sprint race, just simple half seconds here and there. You'd expect to be able to do well here. You're going to be able to have to keep it clean, so that could mean the likes of our Pedros, our Midnights, could do quite well around here if they can keep it clean, Sarah.
Yeah, obviously, fingers crossed, everything crossed for, no pit lane penalties for anybody, because we all know how kind of annoying it can be, when you're doing well and then you get struck by a 3-second penalty, and obviously it can be made worse if you then on the exit get another 3-second penalty. So yeah, obviously I'm sure the drivers will be keeping to that right side as much as they can when they're coming into the pits. And I don't know about you, but I'm interested to see what the strategy is going to be like tonight. I've heard from, obviously, a little bit behind the scenes that Midnight's going maybe for a potential aggressive strategy. So excited to see what that will be. But Kirk, if you want to take us away, we're just waiting for the lights out.
Absolutely. So starting on pole position, and surely the person who we wanting to lead after the first lap is Katie Kai. We have 5 red lights, and out they go. Katie Kai getting a very good start there, being able to pull away from the 2 McLarens behind him, heading into the first corner. Are we going to see any contact behind, as we see them almost go through wide there, as we see Swizzy up the inside of Mac Manley there. Swizzy and now Mac Manley running side by side up the hill. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Although Swizzy is on the racing line converges over to Mac. That allows Mac to regain that 4th position. Swizzy now in P5, under a little bit of pressure there from LB Lewis. LB Lewis going into the chicane as they go side by side. LB Lewis smartly thinking better of it and just slotted in behind Swizzy. We see our 2 front runners going very wide there as Katie Kai picks up a 1.5 second penalty on the first lap, Sarah.
Ooh, that's not what you want.
Definitely not. It absolutely is not. As we see just behind Midnight also picking up a half-second penalty. Callum looking up the inside previous corner, still slotting in behind just for now. It's not going to do Kai's race any favours right now, that 1.5 second penalty, Sarah.
No, it definitely isn't. Obviously, we can see that he's taken that penalty now, and obviously the driver's getting very up close behind, and Callum and McManley overtaking with that penalty. I'm sure Kyle will be looking to try and make that time up as quickly as he can. But yeah, a lot of drivers obviously picking up some penalties in the first lap. Not what you want, but I'm sure they'll be kind of using that in the back of their head as to what not to do for the next 33 laps.
Absolutely. I just need to correct myself from earlier. Katie Kai is not on the medium tyre, he's decided to start on the soft tyre. So he certainly needs to be getting past those 2 people in front of him, so McManley and Callum, as soon as possible to really take full advantage of those soft tyres. But going to turn 1, that gap closed up as we see LB Lewis driving very well at the moment up the inside of Swizzy. Swizzy being able to hold that momentum around the outside of turn 1.
Something happened in the background. Is that Pedro round?
I don't know, sir. Can you get us a rewind?
I will try my bestest. I might have just missed it. Oh, Pedro getting a little bit of a sandwich there. Oh, that was very close to a few drivers collecting him. But looks like a few drivers wanted to make a Pedro sandwich and obviously spun Pedro round. Unfortunate, but I'm sure Pedro will kind of be back up into that pack, ready to fight the drivers yet again.
Also in other news, Midnight ISO has picked up another half-second penalty after starting P2 in this race. It can already see himself possibly dropping down to P7. Obviously, not a very good start to Midnight ISO's race. I just want to say, well done to LB Lewis up in P5 right now, Sarah.
Yeah, he's having a pretty good race so far. Seems to be battling with Swizzy quite a bit. But yeah, unfortunate for been like picking up those half-second penalties because they do stack up. Obviously, we know if you keep getting them, you lose quite a lot of time. But I'm sure Midnight will trying his best to get back to where his qualifying time was. But obviously, going back to that, obviously the recent development of Kai setting that time on a set of softs as well. I think Midnight will be very proud of the qualifying time that he set.
Absolutely. Only being a few tenths off Katie the Kai on the same set of tyre, certainly nothing to be ashamed of. As we know, Katie the Kai is a very fast driver. Somewhere around that previous lap, he has managed to make that overtake on Manley's stick. And now he's hunting down Callum to try and secure his first place back, Sarah.
Yeah, and just on board with LB Racing as well. He's hot on the tail of Swizzy. So this gap, not separated by too much. This top 5, so it's anyone's game at the moment.
Absolutely. As we see further behind, although behind that top 5 battle, the pack is possibly opening up just a little bit. I say don't really take your eye off Coach. I feel like Coach is again one of those drivers that often go underneath the radar as someone who and quite often pull off a different strategy and could see himself up towards the front of the pack. Other than that, yeah, apart from that little battle for P5, everyone seems to be keep behaving themselves, Sarah.
Yeah, a lot of drivers kind of, at the moment, I'm sure they'll be kind of eyeing up their competitors' lines, their braking points to see where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and when's the best time to strike. Obviously, we're 3 laps in, and I was just looking at KD the Kai's left front tyre, which is already nearly half worn. So I think that's kind of an insight as to the strategy that it's it's not going to take it long for that soft tyre to completely go red.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw towards the end of the sprint race that the soft runners were really struggling on their tyres, as well as Swizzy on the mediums was again also really struggling. It'll be interesting to see how Katie Kai's tyre wear compares to that of Midnight ISO. Now ISO picking up a position somewhere, I believe. Don't quote me on that, Sarah.
Yeah, he seems to be in and around that 6th place, fighting with the likes of Hartman and LB Racing as well. I'm sure Midnight might be a little bit disappointed in his first opening stint, obviously picking up quite a few penalties, but he's not afraid for using those alternative strategies. And like I say, the last time that I spoke to him, he said he may potentially go in for an aggressive strategy. I don't know what that means in terms of what tyres and when he's going to pit, but if he pulls it off, I'm sure that it will get him back into kind of close to the podium.
Absolutely. Just looking on board with Katie Kai, it looks like Katie Kai is basically pushing Callum through some of these corners. He's absolutely desperate to get past Sarah. His tyres obviously looking quite a bit worse than the people around him. Also, it'd be interesting to see how far Callum runs in this race. Obviously, we know Callum is one of the people who is very good to their tyres. And it'd be interesting to see where everything shakes out at the end, Sarah. Don't you agree?
I definitely agree. 100% agree. It's I think it's a bit too early to call, but I think there's going to be kind of a lot of shaking around the order at the moment, because obviously we have a few drivers that don't have a lot of practice, don't have a lot of hours around this track, compared to drivers that have probably a couple 100 hours around this track. So obviously seeing some drivers have much more experience around here, you can definitely tell. But, you know, Watkins Glen, it's fine one day, and then the next day it's, you know, oh, Midnight, no. Just caught that in the background. A little bit of a spin for Midnight, losing a couple of positions. Well, losing quite a few positions actually, which I'm sure he won't be very happy about. But I'm very sorry again, Midnight. I did catch that. I know, obviously, I usually kind of pan to Midnight when he's doing something, and lo and behold, I did it again. So apologies. But yeah, going back to, obviously, as you can see, you know, Midnight I know has got quite a few hours around Watkins Glen, but Watkins Glen can bite. When you get it wrong, you definitely get it wrong, and it doesn't treat you nicely when you get it wrong. As we saw Midnight having a little bit of a spin there, which usually happens when you're kind of trying to correct yourself and the car goes, nope, there's no correcting it, I'm sending you the wrong way and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You hate to see it, don't you? But that allows, that promotes the likes of Hartman, Koulias and the Dark Lord up a position. Previously on that lap, I saw McManley picked up a 1 second time penalty that dropped him out of the podium positions behind Swizzy and LB Lewis. But though LB Lewis's soft tyres are looking very second hand right now, and he's under a lot of pressure from McManley for P4 again, Sarah.
Yeah, as we look, they're going side by side in towards that chicane. I think LB just got it. But yeah, obviously McManley on the mediums, he'll be able to go that a little bit longer compared to LB Racing. So as much as obviously LB Racing is definitely on it, as we see them going side by side again, there will come a point where unfortunately, you know, the tyres of LB Racing will mean that Mac's tyres are a little bit stronger than his. But apart from that, you know, seeing these two going side by side again into this corner here, it shows you that this could be a battle that we see all race long.
Possibly, Sarah. I don't want to take a... Oh, is that Katie Kai picking up a penalty at the front there, Sarah? Losing second place to Swizzy and now dropping almost 5 seconds back from the lead of this race. What has happened there?
Yeah, didn't quite catch it, but looking at his tyres, it might kind of allude as to what did happen, as that left front does look like it's seen better days. The car, obviously the GTR, running on 3 rims instead of 4, so I'm sure that will be kind of playing in Katie the Kai's mind, you know, when do I pit, what tyres do I go on, where will it kind of put me out in the traffic. But yeah, it just goes to show, you know, 9 times out of 10 when you drive Watkins Glen, you'll drive it fine, you won't pick up a penalty, and that one lap, unfortunately, you do, and it costs you a few positions.
As we see both Katie Kai and McManley getting 1 second time penalties for extending the exit of turn 1. Obviously Katie Kai possibly doing that 2 laps in a row. As we don't, I can't say that for certain, as we don't know where he lost all his time to Callum. But obviously these penalties are not helping his race out in the slightest, is it, Sarah?
No, as we both know, obviously, picking up another penalty. So Katie the Kai got a 2 second penalty on lap number 7, but we all know that although you get a 1 or a 2 second penalty, it does cost you a lot more than just that 2 second penalty, with obviously slowing down and having to de-accelerate. By the time that you get back up to speed, you do lose quite a bit of time. So yeah, unfortunate for Katie the Kai and McManley there, but it just kind of shows you how both of them are kind of pushing the limits of the track in order to make moves forward. That brings LB Racing back onto the boot of that GTR of Katie the Kai.
It'll be interesting to see now whether Katie the Kai pits at the end of this lap, as he is expecting the tyres to give him more grip than what they're actually giving, cause him to run wide and get those penalties. Is he going to continue for a lap? Yes, he is. But LB isn't. LB is pitting this lap, making sure to take it extra careful, possibly holding up Hartman there just the slightest bit on the entry, as the pit exit, the pit entry, should I say, is on the apex of the final corner. Well, actually, we see both Midnight and LB Lewis pitting. Obviously, we saw Midnight make that slight mistake earlier, and he is. It'd be interesting to see what they come out on, Sarah. Whether they come out on the mediums or the soft tyres. Are they going to do 2 sets of softs and then go to a medium, or are they going to go soft or medium, soft to the end? It definitely looks like if we're pitting at the end of lap 8, it definitely looks like it could be a 2 or 3 stopper tonight, Sarah.
Definitely. I think obviously it depends what sort of strategy they're going for. If they want to continue with the pace they got, a few of them might go back on the soft set of tyres for now. But yeah, it just goes to show the tyre where the drivers are factoring it in, and only 8 laps has made those soft set of tyres unusable. So it just goes to show that the mediums or the hards, although we don't see the hards used a lot, a few drivers might go on it for kind of to see if it brings them that little bit longer into the race. But I think a lot of drivers will be using those mediums and softs as best as they can. But obviously round here, you want, again, I'm always going to say it's the traction it comes down to. Obviously when drivers have low amounts of traction, that's when we see them just gliding that little bit wide and picking up those penalties. Obviously you put the full car outside of those white lines, the stewards will whack a half second to a second penalty on you. But Midnight going on to the soft set of tyres, and where is he? LB going on to the mediums. So Midnight going on the soft set of tyres, but LB going to the mediums, hopefully going in that little bit longer into the race. But obviously LB picking up a full tank as well, and as opposed to Midnight, who's only took a little bit of fuel, obviously got half a tank, so he will be going quite fast at this point compared to LB, who's looking more into the future of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Be interesting to say that Midnight, so with half a tank of fuel, is probably going to be pitting again before lap 18 or so. Obviously, see him coming in at the end of lap 8, to the end of lap 17 on the lap 18 for a pit stop.
Potentially. Could we see Midnight go for a free stop here? Obviously softs again, and then obviously with the 2 tyre rule, go into the mediums right at the end.
I'm thinking he could possibly be doing a long stint on the medium tyre. Obviously, looking at the likes of Callum and Swizzy, maybe not a long stint, because obviously we're only on lap 9 right now. It seems their tyres aren't exactly in the best of shapes.
No, obviously we know with some of the banked corners around here and the high speed sections, it does burn through rubber quite fast, and I think a lot of drivers struggling with that tonight, are similar to some of the other tracks that we've had in the championship so far. Watkins Glen, another one that will burn through the tyres and the fuel quite quickly. But I mean, Callum, it's a completely different story for Callum in the feature race so far as opposed to his performance in the sprint race. So I think Callum, taking on board the sprint race result and turning it around potentially for the feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost a complete reverse finish from where he finished in the sprint race. As we see Katie Kai picking up another penalty, Sarah. This is going to be a race to forget for Katie Kai at this rate. Possibly seeing himself come out behind the likes of Midnight and LB Lewis. If he keeps racking those up racking those penalties up, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously just going on board with him now. He's only driving on 1 tyre, so that might explain why. Oh, a yellow flag. That was a very short yellow flag, but only driving on 3 rims might only on 1 rim, obviously 3 completely red tyres, might explain a little bit as to why the car is wanting him, pulling him, shall we say, or forcing him to go that little bit wider in order to
I think it's from Callum. I think Callum must have had a spin or an incident in towards the wall as he has lost the lead of this race. And not only the first place, second place as well, Sarah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't quite catch what happened there. So I think that will definitely be one, to have a look afterwards, as he does pick front end damage up. So going from, first place to second as Swizzy's pitting, could we see, Swizzy and McManley fighting for the win with Callum here, as opposed, Callum getting the win straight away?
Yeah, absolutely, we could do. Obviously, a very rare mistake from Callum. That's one of the only times I've seen him make a properly major mistake. Is Katie Kai picks up another half-second penalty. It's crazy, for lack of a better term, Sarah. Absolutely mental. This race is really starting to spice up, wouldn't you say?
I couldn't agree more. I was just obviously keeping an eye on everyone just coming into the pits there. Well, most people coming into the pits, 11 laps in. It goes to show, I think it's too early to predict any sort of, finishing order, because the drivers are climbing and then obviously pitting. So, a bit too early to kind of tell where everyone's going to finish. Obviously, we like, trying to think into the future, shall we say. But, like you say about Callum, unfortunately, we didn't quite catch it. Although there was a yellow flag, but it was very, very short. So he must have got himself going straight away after making a small mistake. But, McManley in first, I'm sure he'll be happy about that. And, the pressure is a little bit on McManley's shoulders, obviously, knowing that he's got Callum only 2 seconds behind. He'll be constantly looking in his rearview mirror to make sure that he's, keeping that gap to around 2 seconds.
Yeah, just to have an idea of how much time he lost, Callum's previous lap times were in the high 45s in just one low 46 time, and during that lap he had an incident. He lost 14 seconds there due to whatever incident he did have.
Yeah, costing him quite a lot of time there, and like you say, quite a rare mistake from Callum. We don't see him make too many mistakes, but I think that kind of boils down to, not having a lot of hours on Watkins Glen, and it's a track that, it isn't easy your first time driving around here. It takes a lot of getting used to, and KD the car going very wide again there onto the grass. Might see him pick up another penalty here. He might have just got away with that one, but it's interesting to see KD the car, going this far on those tyres, which have definitely seen better days. And obviously he's got his GTR friend in the Dark Lord just behind him. Obviously,
be interesting if he chooses to fight Louis. Obviously, Louis on the hard tyres is running quite a quiet race. Well, that says a lot. If Katie Kai picked up so many penalties and lost so much time due to these worn tyres, that Louis on the hard tyres caught up for him, really this must show him that this strategy so far isn't quite working out, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be playing in, Katie the car's mind, that the car behind, he might not know what tyres he's on, but obviously he knows how much time he's lost personally through, the worn tyres, but also, a few penalties, picking them up here and there. As we see Callum coming into the pits, I'm sure, to repair that damage, get on a new set of tyres and get going again. But yeah, obviously, a great showing from Dark Lord, on those hard set of tyres, and he's, fighting for what could be a podium here with his strategy. We don't see a lot of drivers, going on those hard set of tyres, so, Dark Lord's brave, and he's making it work.
Yeah, absolutely. If it works, why not go for it? Because he took that pain in qualifying and for the first few laps, but hard tyres really started to be coming back into it now. I'm not sure if his plan is to go far onto the hards and then go soft to the end or anything like that, or go hards now and then go on to the medium tyre, as we see Katie Kai picking up another half-second penalty, Sarah.
Yeah. We'll have to start, playing the game, or as to, whenever Katie the Kai picks up a penalty, we have to do something. But yeah, unfortunately, Katie the Kai picking up another half-second penalty, which, in the moment, a half-second penalty doesn't lose you too much time, but obviously if you keep getting them towards, the end of the race, it will kind of have an effect on the finishing order and, the gap to the competitors around him, as obviously we see Midnight back into fourth place is only 3 seconds behind, so I'm sure Midnight will be eager to capitalise if KD the Kai keeps picking up penalties.
Yeah, is just that put that into perspective. KD Kai has now almost lost a full pit stop on someone who was down in P7 when they pitted. Obviously, after that incident, Midnight had that little spin he had early on. You've got to say at some point, when does this strategy not quite work out? Well, when does this strategy go in the bin, for lack of a better word? When does Katie the Kite decide to swallow the pill and pit?
Yeah, as we can see, obviously that gap was nearly at 3 seconds and it's already at 2.3 seconds, so Katie the Kai losing quite a lot of time being on those one set of tyres and picking up the penalties. Obviously it's a recipe for disaster, worn tyres, penalties. It's going to have an effect on his race, his strategy probably. But we don't know, we're not in the driver's mind, so maybe Katie the Kai has a strategy in mind that he wants to stick to no matter what. But we've got 20 laps left, so potentially he's going for a 2-stop, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a 1-stop. As we see, obviously that gap to Midnight and Katie the Kai is down to 1.3 seconds, so we could see Midnight getting up to this battle here and getting on the podium.
So realistically, to be able to do a 1-stop with a 34-lap race, you'll have to pit at the end of lap 17. Look at the amount of fuel Louis has. Louis could almost certainly be doing the 1-stop here tonight, barring tyre wear. But I don't think Kai has enough fuel to be able to do the 1-stop, Sarah.
No, as we see McManley coming in as well with some minimal fuel. So it just goes to show, obviously, a lot of drivers, the fuel goes before their tyres, or they feel more confident, driving on worn tyres. Although, Midnight has caught up to the back of both Katie the Kai and Dark Lord very quickly. So it shows, the advantage of what a fresh set of tyres can do. And obviously unlocking a lot of pace. As I'm sure we're going to see a move here between Midnight and Katie the Kai. Surely, Katie the Kai, you'd be thinking here, right, these tyres are not doing me any favours.
Yeah, we'd assume so, but obviously not quite at this moment in time. Kate Kai not really defending from Midnight, letting Midnight just sweep around the outside, and as we see, in the space of just a few corners, Midnight already looking to go around the outside of Louis, and Louis dropping a pit stop to the soft runners, the soft runner of Midnight, ISO. And then we have Midnight ISO in the lead, Sarah. So obviously everything's coming up Luke so far, Sarah.
Yeah, we don't say that very often, do we? But it's good, to see the co-founder up in P1 leading the race. Although I think he'll be coming in soon because that fuel light is flashing, which will be telling Midnight, come into the bits, it needs refueling. But I mean, it goes to show, the tyre advantage that Midnight had compared to the Dark Lord and Katie the Kai, and obviously what low fuel can do as well. He's shot past them quite quickly, as we see Midnight coming into the pits, enjoying that half a lead lap, and hopefully it's not the end yet. We might see Midnight challenging for the win later on.
See, Katie Kai also pitting as well. 16 laps on those soft tyres. Is he going to go into a set of mediums and then take those to the end as well? It will certainly be interesting to see. Yeah, Louis right now is and I say end of lap 16 realistically is what you want to be doing for a one stop this race. Um, as we see the likes of also Hartman. So Hartman is running quite well in P2 right now. Obviously, he'll be pitting again soon. Twizzy is also on the hard tyre. Uh, just some okay pace running within the mid 46s. Obviously, a lot faster than what Keed Kai was running on those absolutely battered soft tyres. So I'm pretty sure it's advantage Twizzy right now compared to everybody else. Even Callum behind looks like Callum behind will also be pitting again sometime soon. Not sometime soon, but they'll definitely be pitting again before the end of this race. Yeah, so we'll go from there, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just keeping on board with Katie the Kai there, going on to a medium set. So potentially, he might be going for that one stop, although it'd be difficult to stretch, the fuel, the distance. But we've obviously seen Katie the Kai driving on the rims on the soft tyre, so potentially might be looking to do the same for the mediums. And I'm sure, he'll be happy to get off of those soft tyres eventually. But it does lose him quite a few positions. But yeah, going back to like the likes of Hartman, he's doing remarkably well so far. Obviously, quiet but consistent, and he's up and towards that top 5.
Absolutely. As we see somewhere, LB Lewis picking up front and front right damage as he looks quite borderline on track or on pit lane limits out as he enters. So it could be interesting to see if he has any damage when damage or a penalty, should I say, when he leaves the pit lane. Other than that, we see Midnight, who pitted coming out onto a set of softs.
So he's
looking to take that pace.
He's going softs, and then potentially mediums right at the end. Was that the aggressive strategy that Midnight was alluding to? We don't know yet, but going on 3 sets of softs. He's looking for more speed, and I'm shocked. I'm speechless.
Not something we usually see for Midnight. Midnight is usually taking full advantage of that. McLaren's better tyres to run alongside on the medium or hard tyre. It looks like he's throwing caution to the wind and really going flat out on the soft tyres.
And potentially.
Louis run very wide, Sarah. I don't know if you can get a replay of that.
What the Dark Lord?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a look. Might have just missed that one. You're getting very close to the wall there. That's a new trousers moment there for the Dark Lord, who pits and goes off of those hards, pick up some more fuel. It'll be interested to see what tyres the Dark Lord goes to. But going back to the likes of Midnight, if he didn't make that unfortunate mistake towards the end, we could have maybe potentially seen him making full advantage of that aggressive strategy. And it's not the end yet. I'm sure he'll be still making the best that he can out of obviously an unfortunate little bit of a spin, which I don't think it cost him too much time, but it did lose him quite a few positions at the time. But obviously with the different strategies, he's kind of been boosted back up towards that top 5, and I'm sure he'll be aiming to keep a hold of it, if not challenge the likes of Swizzy, Callum and McManley for a podium spot.
I think that is something he could absolutely do. Obviously, if we compare him to the 3 people in front of him, we have Mac, who is on the soft tyre, and Callum, who is on the medium tyre. Looks like Midnight could possibly have to find a little bit more pace in the lap time he's currently setting, as both McManley and Callum were quicker than him last lap. However, our leader Swizzy was not faster than him last lap, so he is certainly hunting down first place Swizzy, Sarah.
Yeah, can he do it? I was just on board with Pedro, who has got himself back up to P5 after, being a bit of a victim to a bit of a sandwich move by a few drivers towards the start of the race. So, going on that hard set of tyres, going that little bit longer into the race, he's doing quite well, and he's made up quite a few positions from when we last saw him.
Also, nice to mention Coach as well. Currently in P6, he is currently the person who has the fastest lap of the race so far. It's again another driver who's doing quite well today, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to see Coach doing so well in a car that we know he adores. So for him to get back-to-back good performances, I'm sure everyone, including himself, will be very happy indeed. Obviously, I'm just looking at his tyres and his fuel. Looks like he might have to come in shortly for some fuel. But having the likes of KD the Kai and Pedro around him and fighting those drivers, he's got to be incredibly proud of himself, and I'm sure he'll be driving with a massive smile on his face after that sprint race victory.
Yeah, I don't think anything could wipe the smile off his face after that race.
I might just be able to see his smile through his visor. Let me check. But yeah, a lot of drivers, settling into the race. Obviously, we're over halfway at this point. A lot of drivers, fighting for positions. And this time, it'll be crucial entering the second half of the race. This is when, it really counts. And your strategy plays a massive part as to, where you're going to finish, who you're going to be battling towards the end. As we see, the drivers not separated by too much, all kind of within the same half of the track, which is good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not compared to some races, we're not really seeing the field spread all that much. So that was a possible mistake there from Coach. I'm not quite too sure if you're on board with him. That gap seems to have come down quite a lot to KD Kai, as we see.
I think a potential fuel issue.
Pick.
I'm not sure. I don't think he run out of fuel, but I think he was getting very, very close indeed. So he was just taking it nice and carefully, knowing that he has to come into the pits. But that does promote, KD the Kai back into P6 with a fresh set of medium tyres. Sorry, but I was already about a quarter worn, so I don't know if KD the Kai will be able to stretch them 14 laps. Potentially he might be able to, but I think that's going to be a very kind of tall order for those tyres.
I mean, we saw with those at least with the soft tyres, he certainly isn't afraid to run on very worn tyres, Sarah.
No, but obviously we can see with his lap times at the moment that compared to his lap times on those worn set of softs to now on being a fresh set of mediums, they've drastically improved. But saying that, Hartman, just off the back of KD the Kai, he'll be potentially eyeing up a move here, which
yeah, absolutely. If KD Kai makes a mistake or anything, but as we've seen him do at many points throughout this race, picks up a needless penalty, he could certainly lose that position to Hartman. And we saw Hartman running in P2 before his current stop for the medium tyres. Be interested to see if he could possibly be able to take these medium tyres to the end, Sarah.
Yeah, as we just see in the distance, just saw Pedro having a half-second penalty as well. But yeah, potentially, Hartman going under the radar at the moment, but potentially might be able to, challenge a few drivers for, the top 5 spot, and having a pretty good race so far. Going slightly under the radar, but that doesn't hurt. Getting your head down, getting into some battles. some of them might play off as he goes onto the inside of KD the Kai going into the chicane, and looks like he gets the move done, although KD the Kai is hot on his tails. What a move from Hartman. He wasn't afraid to, extend his braking zone that a little bit longer than KD the Kai, and gets that move done. And I'm sure, KD the Kai will be a little bit shocked by that move, seeing, Hartman in his rearview mirror to then being in front of him within a few corners.
Absolutely, a very impressive commitment there from Hartman to get challenge someone into the chicane. As we saw, possible little bit of impeding there from Koulios on Callum. Like it possibly affected Callum too much, although with the likes of Swizzy and Mac Manley not too far behind, as commentators curse. It was Koulios drop it on the exit of the first corner and spin, picking up a bit of front end damage, Sarah.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Koulios there. As I'm sure you know, I don't think this is a track that Koulios has driven too much. So doing quite well for having like limited track time around Watkins Glen, or the Glen as we called it earlier. So I think lap on lap, Koulios is getting practicing his lines, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and next time he's racing around here, I'm sure he'll kind of use this race as experience and like what to do, what not to do. But still circulating, which is good to see. And he's on the hard tyre, so we might see him go towards the end of the race if he can make the fuel work. Obviously just over half a tank, so if he can close that gap to coach, he might get a few more positions here. But if not, still 11th place, picking up a lot of points, which I'm sure will help him towards the end of the championship. But yeah, obviously it's good to see Koulios keep going, don't give up just yet.
Absolutely. Oh, you never want to see him anyone give up.
Is LB Lewis on auto drive? The hazards are on. Potential issue for Lewis, I'm not sure. Obviously that's going to lose him quite a lot of time, because when the AI drive it doesn't drive fast. Kind of drives at a reserved pace. But I think he's off the auto drive now. He's back on it, so potentially maybe a little bit of an issue, or just needed a couple of seconds. But he's back in it now. But yeah, the Dark Lord going on to the mediums, and he's closing that gap to KD the Kai. He was quite far back a few laps ago, so really making those medium tyres work, and he's getting up very close to KD the Kai here.
Absolutely. If you look at KD Kai's last few laps, it doesn't seem as if he can really get those medium tyres to work for him, as obviously his lap time seemed to be very far off what he was usually setting, Sarah.
Yeah, I think we both know that the medium tyres, sometimes they feel good, and the other times they kind of feel like you're driving on the hard tyres, which may be what KD the Kai is experiencing at the moment. He was happy on those soft set of tyres, the mediums, not treating him so kindly. But that might make him change his strategy a little bit to go back onto the soft set of tyres towards the end. But he's not too far away from Pedro and Hartman, who looked like they were just about to get into a little bit of a battle there, but thinking better of it. So this little P5 all the way down to P8 having a good little fight here, all four not separated by too much, as we see Swizzy and Midnight coming into the pits. Midnight having only 8% fuel. Could we see Midnight going on to that medium set finally?
Yeah, I'm saying, is this Swizzy and Midnight strategy converging on one another, and both taking a set of medium tyres to the end, possibly? I do believe you probably want to go a few more laps before taking a set of softs, maybe the end of lap 26 or 27 before you go into a set of soft tyres. but looking by the looks of everyone,
Oh, Pedro runs a little bit wide there, which means Hartman gets into that inside line off of turn 1, getting that on the run to that back straight just before the chicane. I think Pedro luckily didn't pick up a penalty there, so he's back in the fight, but Hartman getting a good line there as we see both GTRs going into the chicane side by side as well. So quite a few battles warming up here, Kirk.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to see as well. Looking at that gap from the people in front, Callum and Mac. Will we possibly see Hartman leading this race after they both pit? Obviously, now we have Callum pitting this lap, and both Callum and Mac pitting at the end of this lap. Could we possibly see Hartman leading this race, Sarah?
I think we're going to, as both come in, and I think this group here, will be our leading group, as we see the Dark Lord going for a move on KD the Kite and Pedro getting 2 moves done in one corner. I'm sure we'll be very happy about that. Obviously, I think catching Pedro and KD the Kite off guard there, going for the open door and getting it done.
A classic Louis move, so to speak.
As you see, KD the Kite back in. I don't think he got on very well with those medium tyres.
And this is right. We see, I guess I was right, Sarah. We see Hartman and Louis 1 and 2 so far. Obviously, that one stop really paying off for Louis. Hartman as well. Do you ever think we'd see Hartman leading the race, Sarah?
No, but I've got to say, I'm very happy and very proud of Hartman. I know how much work he puts in and a lot of practice. Oh, Louis went a little bit wide there. He might just get away with it there, potentially. I think he does. The game decided to treat him nicely there. But, Hartman to be leading a race, it definitely shows, the amount of practice that he's been putting in. And, what a race he's having so far. Similar to Coach, I'm sure, he'll be smiling, but he'll also be looking behind to see that the Dark Lord is under a second behind and having a good race as well. So, potentially, the Dark Lord doesn't really need to pit again. So we could see him challenging towards, the end of the race to stay on that podium. If, the likes of Callum, Swizzy and McManley can get through that pack quickly.
Absolutely. I think looking at the shape of both Hartman and Louis' tyres, it might be too much of an ask realistically to be able to defend from the likes of Callum. Callum overtaking Swizzy this lap to get clear air. He's already caught the 2 leaders by over a second and a half in just half a lap there. So I don't think they'll be able to defend from him when he does catch up.
No, but they'll be trying to prolong it for as long as possible. I imagine, you can just see Callum's pink McLaren in the distance there. So, yeah, I think they'll be keeping an eye as to where Callum is and how long it's going to take. And they may say it's not my fight. They might just let Callum through, or they might try and use the tyre life that they've got left to have a little bit of a battle with him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate to see how KD the Kai's race is kind of descended there after qualifying on pole, now down in PA, with not really much hope of moving too far forward, Sarah.
No, and obviously a very similar story to Midnight as well. Obviously, qualifying in P2, having that slight little mistake at the start. He dropped him down to P7. So, just goes to show you make that small mistake and the drivers are right on your tails. But, that goes to show kind of how matched everyone is and how fast everyone is. You make that slight mistake, it does drop you quite a few positions. As we see, Pedro losing quite a few positions to the likes of Callum, McManley and Swizzy. So potentially, Pedro getting out of the way, knowing that it's not necessarily his fight, but that's opened the door for Callum to try and get as close as he can to... Oh, Hartman looks like he may have gone over as the car goes invisible. That I've never seen that before. But looks like he just went over that pit line on the entry, fighting a little bit with Dark Lord. So I might see him picking up a little bit of a penalty there.
Sarah, I don't. What is this pace we're seeing from Callum? Callum, closing in on being almost 3.9 compared to Louis' 47.4. That's what 4.56. Over almost 4 seconds a lap faster than Louis at the moment, Sarah. That is just insanity.
That is, and for a driver that's not had much experience around here, that is amazing, that time. And I don't think we're going to see it get beaten. But unless everyone decides to use some rockets or some nitrous in the tank. But yeah, I mean, look how fast Callum has caught the back of Dark Lord, and I'm sure Callum, will be going, please let me through, please let me through. I've got the likes of McManley and Swizzy close behind, but will Dark Lord defend? Which he doesn't look like he does. He looks like he leaves that inside line open for Callum to go through, potentially knowing it's not his fight. But yeah, obviously Dark Lord looks like he's going to get involved in the race for McManley and Swizzy as well. But, I mean, I can't get over that lap time for Callum.
Absolutely. Just to put that into perspective, the person who qualified on pole, Katie Kai, only set a 44.0. So that's faster than what Katie Kai set in qualifying trim, which was much lower fuel than what Callum has currently. So we could possibly see Callum beat that time even more, Sarah.
Potentially. Obviously, the only kind of factor that might stop him is that degrading soft tyre, which will be degrading quite a bit now. But I can just imagine low fuel, and if that tyre wear was saying that he's got a purple sector 1 already. I was literally saying, we might not get faster, but we might get slightly faster lap time from Callum here if he can get purple sector 2 and 3. But yeah, I can just imagine in the ideal world, no tyre wear, low fuel, the lap time that Callum could set.
Yeah. As we see Katie Kai beating that 43.9 with a 43.6.
Yeah, just when I said it couldn't be beaten, and Katie the Kai was like, hold up a minute, I'm going to show you.
My beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. Don't count me out just yet. Obviously in P6, he doesn't look like he's too far behind, well, he's about 11 seconds behind Midnight, but on the soft set of tyres, so I think he'll be eager to try and get as close as he can to Midnight. Obviously starting at a very similar kind of position as to what Midnight did, but back on those soft set of tyres, so he must, that GTR must not have liked that medium stint.
No, it must not have. Even Louis' GTR is now struggling. That front left is now completely worn out. It looks like Louis' string of podium finishes might be coming to an end, Sarah.
Potentially, Swizzy being back in the feature race, it does mean Louis has to fight for that P3 just a little bit more this week. But finishing not too far away from the podium is nothing to shrug your shoulders at as well. If Dark Lord can hold on for an extra 5 laps, I'm sure he'll be happy with a P4 and being quite close to these drivers up in front.
It looks like we might have possibly lost a runner as well. I think Koulios might have parked it up in the pit, Sarah. Obviously a difficult weekend, or a round, should I say, for Koulios this week. But it's always appreciated to have him turn up.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, obviously we know that he wasn't feeling too well last week, and potentially still feeling the effects of that going into this week and affecting his practice a little bit. But I'm sure he'll kind of use the time to get better and for next week, he'll be back stronger than ever. We know that the performance is in there, and obviously we know that Watkins Glen is a very difficult track. And just echoing the words of Kirk, it's good that Koulios is trying his best, and he went quite a lot of the race distance. So it's all track experience. Whenever Koulios decides to race here again, he's got some experience under his belt.
Absolutely, Sarah. Be interesting to see our final battles now. Everybody seems quite decently spread out. You could possibly see Louis in Midnight. Midnight can keep the pace up, possibly coming in to challenge Louis in the final few laps. But other than that, I think everything is just about set in stone, Sarah.
Yeah, like you say, obviously just circling through the drivers now, it looks like everyone's kind of getting ready to cross the finish line. Unless anything dramatic happens within the next 4 laps, this may be our finishing order, and a lot of drivers doing and having a pretty good race. Obviously, a few mistakes here and there, but that's normal around a track like this. And yeah, I mean, it might be a bit too early to tell, but kind of any drivers of the day so far in your books, Kirk?
Well, I think definitely. Well, all the sprint races, 100% got to be Coach go a sublime race to get his first victory. Other than that, I think for this race, possibly Callum starting. Well, it's got to be Callum, hasn't it? Started P4. He kept out of trouble. Those picked up a few penalties here and there. Hadn't really cost him all that much, and it looks like by any major mistakes, he's going to win this race, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously, I think in the pre-brief he said that he hasn't had many hours around this track, and he was kind of basing Watkins Glen off of another track that he's driven. So having to learn it on the go is tough, but you wouldn't have known that Callum didn't really know this circuit the way that he's driving.
Absolutely. Drove a sublime race. But it looks like he probably isn't going to secure the fastest lap now from Cade the Kai. This has pretty much been a faultless performance. Can't really fault him in anything he's done in this race. Another person I say has impressed me a lot is Louis. Really making that one stop work for him. Obviously starting P11, finishing P4. He's done quite well.
He has indeed. Yeah, obviously we don't see a lot of people going on the hard tyre, but Dark Lord aka Louis making it work to his advantage. Obviously that front left now on the mediums does look like it's seen better days, but he's keeping it going. Getting very close to the wall there, but yeah, obviously we've got the likes of Midnight just behind. I think it might be that a little bit too late for Midnight to make a move on Dark Lord, but yeah, I mean, Louis having another pretty good race. He doesn't think he's fast, but to only be 6 seconds off Swizzy with some medium tyres that have seen better days, and doing a one stop where the drivers around you have done 2 or 3 stops. It's he's having quite a good race.
Yeah, can't really fault him at all. He drove very well today. Yeah, other than that, I think those are my 2 drivers that really stand out to me today, Sarah. I think probably my driver of the event will probably go to, for both performances, will probably go to Mac. Obviously P3 in the sprint, P2 in the feature race. I can't really give it to Callum for the sprint race, obviously, because finished towards the back. Same with and it's like the opposite story for Coach. Although Coach won the sprint race, he's been pretty quiet during feature race tonight, Sarah.
Yeah, just having a kind of a more quieter feature race. Maybe he's the adrenaline come down after winning his first ever sprint race. Maybe taking it a little bit easier in the feature race. But he's done a brilliant job in both events. But yeah, I think potentially, the sprint race more in his skill set. He took the pole and he took the win. So he's used to racing out front. So qualifying in the feature race may be a different skill set of coaches, and one that he's kind of still improving. But to finish not too far away from the drivers in Lobby 1, it's definitely something to be proud of. And I've got to agree, coach for driver of the day for the sprint, and it's a tough one. Obviously we're kind of used to Callum winning the feature races. I think he's very good at endurance racing. He's always got a pretty good strategy underneath him. But McManley, he's had 2 very, very strong races today in both the sprint and the feature, picking up a double podium and pretty much incident free, which I'm sure McManley would be very happy about.
Yeah, you could say the same for Swizzy as well. Swizzy obviously P2 in the sprint, P3 in the feature, double podium. Really, the driver of the event got to go to either Mac or Swizzy, Sarah.
Yeah, it's tough to call, isn't it? There's so many people that could be driver of the day, but that just goes to show, how good the drivers are.
And how evenly matched they are as well. So you can't really pick one without bringing up another very good contender for somebody who could win it. The battle that's going on for P4, Midnight ISO is picked up a half-second penalty, Sarah.
Oh no, not what you want when you're trying to get that P4 off of Louis. Maybe potentially pushing a little bit too hard, trying to catch Louis, maybe going potentially a little bit wider there. And I just saw that Koulios is back out, so wanting to take the checkered flag with the other drivers, which is good. Getting a few more laps under his belt around Watkins Glen. Yeah. When did Midnight make the move? I was too busy watching other people. But yeah, Midnight getting into P4. And it doesn't look like that half-second penalty cost him too much, as he's overtaken Louis on some fresher tyres compared to Louis. And I'm sure Midnight going on to the final lap will be looking to try and make it penalty free to make that P4 stick.
Absolutely. Starting on this final lap, was there really any doubt about who would win in the end? Although I know he only qualified, was it P4? It certainly blown everybody's socks off today with his performance in the sprint race, as always. Do you really think anyone else could win, Sarah?
I think we called it way before the event even started. But in the sprint race, having it's definitely been a tale of 2 races here for Callum. Kind of maybe a disappointing sprint race, but a very, very good victory in the feature race. Obviously, we've got a few corners left. Anything could happen, but I think we know who's gonna win. Take it away from me, Kirk. Callum's got only a few corners left, so talking through the last few corners.
Absolutely. As he brings it in to meet the apex of the final corner, running right out on the exit of the corner, and he pulls it right to the pit wall. Callum takes a victory tonight in the feature race. Sorry, pardon me. In P2, he must be very happy with that result. McManley in P3, Swizzy finishing in a double podium on his return event. Obviously, after not being able to make it last week, I'm sure there's nothing he can be upset about securing 2 podiums. After that, we have Midnight finishing P4 in the end. So, Oh, sorry again. Pardon me. Again, dropping 2 positions from where he started. P4 behind the likes of Mack and Swizzy and that. I'm sure there's nothing Midnight can really be ashamed of. And Louis taking P5 as well, really making that one stop work for him. Obviously started P11, ended up finishing P5 in the end. Very impressive drive from him. K Dekai, a story of possibly what could have been. Obviously, we saw him pick up quite a few penalties during this race. I think possibly without the penalties, he probably could have taken P4 away from Midnight. We then have Hartman in P7. In pretty quiet race. We saw him get towards the front. Um, towards the front due to his strategy, but obviously making that final pit stop really dropped him down the order. P8 Pedro. Again, we saw him before his final pit stop. He was up in P3. Up in P3, so he definitely was doing quite well. That final pit stop dropping him down to P8 in the end. LB Lewis, obviously we saw him at the start of the race towards the front of the pack, but obviously it seems like strategy might not have possibly gone his way today. Saw him finishing P9, Coach P10, and then Koulios in P11. Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for doing the rundown there, and yeah, a few drivers having a remarkable feature race. A few drivers obviously a little bit more quiet, but still having a pretty good race. And as we see, obviously Callum picking up the victory yet again. It just goes to show, nothing stops Callum in the feature races. Not even not having a lot of practice around the track. It doesn't stop Callum from performing well. And I mean, what a performance he had. But McManley and Swizzy both respectively picking up podiums in both races is again nothing to shrug your shoulders at as well, and both having a remarkable race. We know obviously Swizzy in that Lexus, he's having to adapt to a new car, which brings out a whole different story, different characteristics from that GTR of last season. So to pick a podium up in his race back, it's pretty good. And I've got to say, Midnight just outside the top 3, but I'm sure he'll be very happy about that because of the little bit of a mistake towards the that first stint. But yeah, I mean, all drivers doing remarkably well, and I mean, I think everyone mostly's got to be happy from that race. Obviously, it's at the end of the day, it's hopefully they had a little bit of fun. And it's more track experience, a few more laps around Watkins Glen, which is a track that we don't see too much of. So I'm sure drivers will be banking these laps in their books for when they next drive around this track. And yeah, I mean, I had fun. I had fun watching. Did you have fun watching, Kirk?
Absolutely. I think my favourite part of the race was seeing Midnight spin.
Yeah, we're sorry, Midnight. We don't take pleasure in seeing you spin, but we do catch it. I think it might be commentator's curse. Whenever we see you in the camera shot, you're doing something funky. But nevertheless, a P4 finish is not too bad. But yeah, I mean, if there is any drivers in either podium, the sprint or the feature, wants to come and have a little chat with us, please do pop in the podium room. We'll be over in a few minutes time. But yeah, Kirk, just talk me through how did you find Watkins Glen and the racing that we were treated to today.
Definitely very exciting. First thing I'll say is the range of strategies we had. See, we saw Louis starting on the hard tyres at one stop, really made dividends in the end to allow him to finish in P5. And then we saw the likes of we saw the likes of Midnight challenge it up at the front there for at least the first few laps before he had his little incident. Then we also, thanks to a range strategy, we also saw a lot of drivers who we wouldn't normally see run at the front of the pack, such as um, excuse me, uh, like your Pedros, like your Hartman, um, and stuff like that. Um, we also saw a range of action, such as people constantly getting penalties, which was constantly mixing up the order of the field. Um, so certainly, yeah, a lot went wrong, right, and also stuff went wrong. Obviously, we saw Callum have a bit of an incident during the mid part of the race. Um, Obviously, midnight spin, we saw a lot of drivers just picking up casual penalties. But I think a good race overall, Sarah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was a pretty good race. Watkins Glen. It like we've always said it. When you get it right, it feels great. When you get it that little bit wrong, it definitely wants to send you facing the wrong way. Unfortunately, but yeah, we were treated to 34 laps in the feature race, 15 minutes in the sprint race, and what a couple of races that was. A few shock results, and well, apart from Callum winning, because we all know how fast Callum is, but yeah, all drivers doing remarkably well, and yeah, we will head over to the podium room in just a second. Before we do, we are going over to Dragon Trail next week, which I'm sure a lot of drivers will be happy around Dragon Trail, and towards the end of the season we're then going over to Spa and Le Mans. So some good races still left on the calendar, but if you're ready, Kirk, should we go and say hello to the drivers in the podium room?
Absolutely, Sarah. I'll see you over there.
Cool, let's head over there. So currently we have McManley and Swizzy waiting patiently for us. So I think Mac got in there first, so we will bring Mac over as we join the podium room. If we can, there we are. Right, so we should have McManley in the chat if you can hear us. This is where McManley, struggles. But how you doing, Mac? How was the race?
Sorry, yeah, the it did disconnect me this time. Race, good, very good.
Good. We saw obviously you picking up a double podium tonight. Happy about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd been struggling the last few races to actually do good in the sprint and the endurance. So to finally do good in both of them is a step forward, definitely. So hopefully I can keep that up.
Good. Then I will hand you over to Kirk, who I'm sure is eager to ask you a few questions.
Hello, Mac. Well, congratulations tonight on the double podium. First question: where do you think it all went right today to be able to secure your results?
I mean, I have to say the car felt pretty quick around here. I said as a joke before the race, I was like, this one was the one I was feeling the most uncertain about. But usually the ones I feel uncertain about are the ones I do the best in, and it looks like it's happened again. But I think, yeah, the car was just feeling super quick. At least the gap was closed to the McLarens, at least a small bit, compared to some of the other tracks, because it's nice, high speed, kind of low speed mix of corners. But as well, just in the sprints, I was able to kind of cut through the fields quicker than I usually do, and then the endurance was just kind of went with the strategy I felt like was going to work, and I mean, worked out.
Yeah. And what was it like from the sprint race from your perspective? Because I know from where I was watching from the spectator, the sprint race, everybody seemed to be very aggressive. I don't know if you saw that from where you were.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't see much aggression, but I do have to say a lot of the time when I was getting overtakes done, I was being a bit aggressive. Now, I don't mean I was making contact with people, but I was kind of, sending it down the inside and kind of just getting it done quickly. So I wouldn't have really seen what was happening behind me. I was more focused on in front of me. But I think the only real issues I had in the sprint was I nearly spun off of turn one on the first lap, literally just after the standing start, and that dropped me to behind to the back, I think. But then I managed to get back up there. Uh, I didn't really see much happening, to be honest. But I do know there I heard a bit of like rubbing from behind me. I could hear some car parts being, you know, damaged, but that was all really.
Yeah, no worries. Then obviously we saw in the feature race you finishing P2. Obviously, I'll say again, where did it go right? And do you think, given on another day, do you think you could have challenged Callum?
Yeah, I mean, Callum was super quick. I mean, even with the mistake he had at the very start, he still managed to win with about like what 6 seconds. He was absolutely rapid, and as he usually is. But like, I think today the strategy was quite nice. I think some other people tried to go for some alternate strategies, and that didn't work out. So that kind of helped me a bit. But at the same time, the car was okay on the mediums, but I felt when I was on the soft for two stints, it just felt like amazing. Like even when the tires went to like 100% wear on the left hand side, the car still drove pretty fine. There wasn't any like hiccups or anything. So I think just the fact I was able to drive the car consistently kind of helped because the last few races I had issues where I was like, getting to like last few laps and there'd be an issue with like the curbs or the car or something like that. But this time around, I managed to hold on to it. So I think that was the main factor, is just consistency. I managed to do it this race at least. But as well, I think the fact that the car or the track suits the Mercedes a bit better, I think, played a factor as well.
And final question. Obviously, next week we have Dragon Trail. Are you looking forward to going through the Death Chicane? And what are your hopes hopes in terms of a result?
I mean, I'm going into the unknown with Dragon Trail because I've only ever driven Dragon Trail in the Supra. That's the only track I ever drive, the only car I ever drive on that track. I used to always do for the daily races and just any league I'd enter at Dragon Trail, I'd use the Supra. So I've never actually used the Mercedes or any other car around there. So it'll take a bit of adapting, but who knows? Maybe that might end up with me hitting the wall once or twice. But I think I'm looking forward to it. I've always been a bit strong around Dragon Trail. It's just whether I'll be able to keep the consistency because I'm fine on 1 lap pace and like for the 5 lap daily races, but for, what, like 30, 40 laps, I'll have to see if I can keep it on the track for that long.
No worries. Thank you for your time, Mac. Congratulations on the double podium tonight, and I look forward to more than likely interviewing you again next week.
Thanks very much, mate. Have a good one, guys.
You too. And we then will bring Swizzy in, who I believe is waiting in the podium room. There he is. Hello, Swizzy. How you doing? You there?
Hello.
Hello. How are you? How was your racing?
Bit boring, but I'm happy with the podium. That was my target today, so yeah.
Good, good. Yeah, it looked like a few difficult races in that Lexus. We know obviously it's quite hard on tyre wear, but I will hand you over to Kirk, who I'm sure has got some questions for you.
Oh, Swizzy, congratulations. It's good to see you back, and well done on the double podium today. The question what was nagging me the most during the feature race is that we saw you go on the hard tyre. Was it a strategy you had in mind coming into the race, or was it just on the fly type of idea?
Um, that's actually a good question because I had no idea what I'm gonna do, at least for like certain, but I could only manage to do like 4 or 5 laps with soft, so I basically knew that the tire is useless in the long run. So I feel like I didn't have any other options other than go medium, hard, medium. And even when I did that, my medium still died on the medium stint, so it's just undoable situation for me right now, but I'm just trying to drive the car and the maximum limit, and seeing the P1, P2 so close to me at some point at the race, I was feeling that I might have chance later on, but at the end of the day, it wasn't even close. But I'm still happy. Like, it's hard to be happy with P3, but at the same time, I think there was nothing I could do today other than P3, so I'm fine with it.
Do you think if you did more practice, do you think you could have possibly challenged the likes of Mac or Callum?
Nah, like I don't play this game that much anymore, but I did enough practice before, like 1 hour, 2 hours, and I know the track very well. Like it doesn't matter what car I drive, I'm very familiar with the track, so I feel like my hard stint was very, very good until the tires started to fall off. But unfortunately, I just had to do like 14, 15, I think it was 14 laps with hards because otherwise I would have needed to put new hard tires on the last stint. So I lost a lot of time on the end of the hard stint, but I still didn't lose, enough time. Like I saved one pit stop. I tried to calculate if I pit for a soft tire at the end or something, but like the pit loss is so high, so it's usually never worth it. So unfortunately, the hard tire was the only option today.
Obviously, we saw some people like Louis only do the one stop round here. Did you ever think that was possible, or was it always a 2 or 3 stop for you?
I mean, if you want to drive with your rims half the race, sure, you can do one stop, but no, I don't think it's worth it, especially around here. You lose too much time when your tires die. It's like, I would say for me it was 4 to 5 seconds because your car is not turning. Yeah, I don't think the one stop was way to go today.
Right, no worries. Obviously, looking to the oncoming weeks, obviously, I know you can't make every event. I'm not sure if you'll be here next week. But if you are, what are your goals for next week at Dragon Trail?
Um, Probably not hit the dead chicane. Don't get any penalties. I absolutely dislike the track. I would rather do anything else. But to be honest, I have no idea what to expect. Like trying to learn how to save tires and driving this car. I mean, my car should be fine on the raw pace on that track, but that's not the track you want to use hard tires, I think. So it's gonna be a struggle. So I would say if I get podium, it feels like a win, even though it doesn't feel like a win. But I try to think that it feels like a win because we have a lot of fast drivers and everyone is using very good cars and stuff like that. So you really need to drive on the limit to even get the podium. So I would say P3. I would be very, very happy.
Right. Well, well, if you get a P3, I will certainly look forward to interviewing you again next week, Suzy. Congratulations today for the double podium, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, just to
Cheers.
echo Kirk's word as well, obviously, massive congratulations and also a massive thank you as well. Obviously, I think everyone has thoroughly enjoyed watching your hot laps that you've been doing for us. So, yeah, just a massive thank you from us for doing them.
Yeah, no worries.
Cool. Well,
And thank you, and we should be see each other next week, but
hopefully,
I'm not
me and Kirk,
certain.
fingers crossed, we'll hopefully, get to speak to you again next week. But thank you for your time as always, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable watching you race around Watkins Glen tonight, and and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your evening, and just a massive thank you from us.
Yeah, no worries. See ya.
See you, and I believe we have Coach in the podium room. Unfortunately, gonna have to drag him away from chatting to midnight. Unfortunately, so hopefully, sorry, Coach, to drag you away from your conversation with midnight, but
What?
you gotta win.
No, I know. That was all part of my strategy to do so crappy last week that it'll move me up in the sprint. I'm just kidding.
Maybe it's a smart idea.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad I did it, and I was bringing that momentum, and my adrenaline was so pumped. I could barely even text my friend to let him know what happened, and for the race I did well, and I got a little bit of a penalty, which is unusual. I've not gotten a penalty at all at practice. And instead of putting my blinker, I hit the e-brake and sent myself to the barrier and spun out, and just that was my race. So it was unfortunate, but that's what I'm saying. I get the bonehead award for the race because oh my goodness, I was so bummed.
It just shows you were fully in it. You were pushing the limits, and we thoroughly enjoyed watching you. But Kirk, I'm sure you got a few questions. You're itching to ask Coach, so go ahead.
First of all, congratulations for the sprint race victory. Was that the plan all along? Was just get to the lead and go as fast as you can in the clear air? Or
Yes, that's why I wanted softs. I thought if I can get up front and hopefully the guys behind me can battle, I can stay up there. So I saw the gap, and once I got a little further, then I just kind of kicked back a little and didn't really push as hard and try to save the tires all the way to the end. I barely had enough tire, but it was more than enough to finish the sprint. But yeah, I was crossing my fingers hoping that would get me up there. But I was sweating it the whole time that they were going to catch me.
obviously, we saw in the end Swizzy got that gap to under 2 seconds in the end. Were you getting a bit nervous towards the end of the race with the thought of Swizzy possibly catching you up?
Yeah, on the last lap, I usually, especially with the tire that was red, I kind of ignore everything. I switch my HUD view from the time gaps, the sectors, to just the radar, and just try to ignore everything, concentrate on each turn. So I know that's the more important lap. So yeah, I was once I see the time and I can kind of, I did peak at the beginning of the lap. I was like, okay, I think I can maintain that as long as I keep it clean, and thankfully I did.
And then moving on from the sprint race to the feature race. Um, obviously, you say you made that mistake of accidentally pressing the handbrake. Is that where it all really fell apart after pressing the handbrake?
Yes, for sure. I pressed it, and then I obviously checked where I was in the grid, and I was like, okay, well, as long as I can get top 10, let's go for it. So I went longer on my mediums than I planned to. Fuel saved a little bit, and I just went softs the rest of the race. And I actually had a fast lap for quite a while. I took it from midnight, so it felt really good. But yeah, they got snatched up at the end too. So I had about a 13-second lap to the guy in front of me, and I closed it down to about 5 seconds. So I just wish I had not made that mistake, and I think I could have even gotten top five. But it's all good. I got a wheel here that I'm used to. I've had it for a while, but it's got a lot of face buttons on there, and I just I swear I had the correct button, and once I saw myself go around, I was like, "Oh, what did you do?" So I'm like, "All right, well, let's see what can happen out of this. See what I can salvage." So top 10. It's not the best, but it's I'm happy with it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think that's about everything. Well done on your win. Is that I believe that is your first sprint race victory.
In lobby one,
Thoroughly
yeah.
deserved. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
thoroughly deserved. Yeah,
yes.
well done. Going on to next week. Obviously Dragon Trail. Do you think you could possibly do better in the feature race?
I think so too. As long as I stay out of my own way, I really like that circuit. And we're running the regular way, right? Not the reverse.
I believe so.
I
Yes.
believe so.
Okay, I like it better. I think but that chicane's easier to take in the regular way than the opposite. So that'll be pretty fun.
Um, are you expecting a lot of people to struggle at the chicane, and you could possibly take advantage of that?
Um, I don't think they'll struggle initially running laps on their own. I think it'll be a struggle when there's traffic. Like even here, even in the when I was trying to get up, I would move my braking point a little further back. I wouldn't accelerate as hard. And just because I was right behind somebody, I swear that the nose lifts, and you got no real force, and you can easily slip. So I think that'll be the biggest thing to manage when there's traffic or somebody in front of you, to be able to still handle and go through that chicane with good speed and have a good exit. So we'll see what happens.
No worries, coach. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you work your magic in the sprint race again next week.
That sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Obviously, very very proud and very happy for you, coach. And yeah, I'm glad you got your win in what you call the alien lobby. It just goes to show you were very fast as well, and we could see that smile through the visor, kind of towards the end of that sprint race and the start of the feature race.
Yes, for sure, for sure. That was very exciting, very exhilarating. So hopefully next time I can put it together and finish the feature well as well.
Yeah, well, we look forward to it, and as always, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to chat to you as always, and hopefully, maybe next week we'll be back interviewing you again for and maybe another win.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you as always. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Sounds good. I'll see you guys.
So I believe that's everyone in the podium room. If there is any drivers that want to just have a quick chat, feel free to pop in while we give you the highlights from the sprint race. Yeah, if there is anybody that wants to jump in, now is your time. And if not, we'll round the stream off by just having a little bit of a chat about the race, and we'll go and show our love to someone else. But yeah, Kirk, before we end, how did you feel the races went today? And I'm sure a lot of drivers can be happy with their performances.
Absolutely. I believe it was a fantastic race, and which probably had the most diverse strategy out of any race so far. Obviously, we saw a few spills with the penalties, and a few people spinning here and there, as well as a lot of very impressive and brave overtakes, such as we saw quite a few overtakes in the chicane, which I didn't think we'd see. Yeah, I'm certainly excited. If this is what Watkins was like, I'm certainly excited to see what Dragon Trail could be like next week.
Yeah, me too. If it goes to show what racing we had today, and the people fighting for positions, and coach getting a win, it just goes to show everyone is quite closely matched, and providing battles across the field. So if tonight's anything to go by, I'm sure we're in for another treat around Dragon Trail, which what we've just heard from a few drivers there is a track that quite a few people like to drive. I know personally I like to drive Dragon Trail as well, or used to. Semi-retired now, but I always enjoy setting a few laps around Dragon Trail. So I'm sure everyone will be practicing, setting in some laps for next week. But
yeah, absolutely. Especially with that with the chicane, that's always very challenging to get right. I'm sure people will be wanting to nail that and make sure that getting that all accurate before really committing to setting fast laps, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so what we brand as the deaf chicane or the deaf chicken, it definitely will bite if you get it wrong. So I'm sure drivers will be practicing getting it right nearly every time they go through it. But potentially 99.9% of the times drivers will go through it fine. It just takes that one a little bit going wider to hit a wall in there. So I'm already excited. I'm already eager to go to Seaside Dragon Trail and watch everyone racing around, and hopefully we'll have another good race again. But I believe that rounds up the stream. We've had a few chats from the drivers, and we will leave you with some highlights from the sprint race from Coach's point of view, because what a win from Coach, getting his first ever sprint race victory in Lobby 1. So we will we will watch the master at work while we end the stream. But thank you very much, as always, for everybody that's raced, that's watched, and we will see you next week for Dragon Trail. Anything you want to say before we round out the stream, Kirk?
I think you summed it up quite well. Congratulations to Coach, congratulations to Callum for winning their respected races, and we'll see everyone again next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Well, it's over and out from us, and we will see you next week. Bye bye bye.